Buying a home is a process, and that includes the type of home that you buy first. If you are worried about ever being able to afford your dream home, I would argue that a smarter strategy might be to buy a home first. A condo or townhome could be a great first step, and it could double your savings. Condos or condominiums are known as properties that are connected, but each unit is individually owned. A condo can have a neighbor on all four sides, right, left, up, or down, depending upon which floor you live. A townhome actually got its name from early England, according to an article on Realtor.com, where families, usually royalty, would keep a home in town when their main residence was out in the country. The same article defined a townhome as a single-family home with at least 2 floors that share a wall with another house. Unlike duplexes or fourplexes, however, each unit is individually owned. Where it can get confusing is sometimes townhomes are sold as condos. It really just depends on the form of ownership. So you could own your entire townhome inside and out, or just be in charge of the interior with a homeowners association that maintains the exterior. So why buy a condo or a townhome when you could just save up to buy a bigger or more expensive property down the line? First of all, no one says you have to. Depending upon your budget or your needs, an attached property might be the perfect place to start and stay. Often, as circumstances change, a growing family, desire for more space or privacy, a detached property becomes a goal, but it's much more achievable with the equity from a condo or a townhome. For example, if you're trying to save up for a larger, more expensive home while renting, it could take you longer. Rents often increase, as does the cost of living. So if you're renting while trying to put extra money aside, you only have yourself to count on. However, let's say you have the money to purchase a starter townhome or condo. Now your rent is your monthly mortgage payment, and your property is gaining in value over time. Let's take 2 adults, and let's call them Taylor and Edward. Taylor wants to live in a big house with a pool and a huge kitchen, but he can only afford a monthly mortgage payment right now of $1,800. So he decides to invest in a townhome that he can afford right now, where he can continue to save up for a bigger house someday. Edward wants the same kind of house, and he could also buy something with a payment of $1,800 a month, but he doesn't want to buy something small. He wants to wait and save for the big house. To be as transparent as possible, for this example, I went into my MLS and found an actual subdivision with townhomes in my area. I was going to go all the way back to 2018, but then I decided that with the pandemic and the massive appreciation of 2020 to 2022, that might skew the results. Instead, I chose a property that was purchased in this subdivision in 2021. And I didn't choose just one. I took the average of the 13 properties that sold in that neighborhood in 2021. Taylor bought this 2-bed, 2-bath townhome in 2021 for $145,400. He puts down 20% or $30,000, and his monthly payment, including property taxes, insurance, and HOA, is $1,200 a month. Edward stays in his rental for $1,500 a month, and he has $30,000 in savings. Each person budgets $500 to put away in savings every single month, or $6,000 per year. At the end of 2021, Taylor has $6,000 in savings. Edward has $36,000 in savings. In 2022, Edward's rent goes up to $1,650, so he's only able to now put $350 away in savings for every month. Taylor's payment stays at $1,200, so he's able to continue putting away $500 a month. At the end of 2022, Taylor has $12,000 in savings. Edward has $40,200. In 2023, Edward's rent goes up again to $1,750, but he also gets a slight raise at work, so he's still able to put away $350 a month. Taylor's payment fluctuates up a little bit with property taxes, and it goes to $1,250. so he's still able to put away $450 per month. At the end of 2023, Taylor has $17,400 in savings. Edward has $44,400. Now it's 2024, and Edward's rent only goes up to $1,800 per month. He now puts away $300 per month. Taylor's payment is still $1,250, and he's still putting away $450 each month. At the end of 2024, we can assume that Taylor has $22,800 in savings, and Edward has $48,000. Taylor decides to sell his townhome and use the equity he's built for a down payment on a bigger house. If we take the current average sales price of that subdivision, we can assume that he sells that townhome for $183,500. After calculating mortgage payoff, compensation, and seller closing costs, Taylor stands to walk away with about $61,000. Add that to his savings, and he now has $83,800. Edward has $48,000. Taylor's numbers only grow the earlier that he gets into a property or the longer he holds it. Can you imagine if Taylor had bought that same townhome in 2019? He would have been able to take advantage of the massive appreciation and equity gains from the pandemic. Now, there's nothing wrong with renting. Sometimes it has to happen. However, if you can start thinking in these terms and thinking of property as a tool, even if your current property is not your dream house, it could be the stepping stone to one. Remember, you're paying a mortgage. It's either yours or your landlord's. If you can shift how you view homeownership, your path to wealth is gonna get shorter, and you can get to your dreams faster. Money is simply a tool, and owning real estate is a way to make it work for you. So if your goal is to own a house that right now you cannot afford, perhaps the path to get there is through a more affordable property like a condo or townhome. If you have a specific property you'd like me to look at, I'm happy to. We can run a similar exercise like I just did for Taylor and Edward, and you can make a better informed decision on your next move. Because leveling up and unlocking home equity could be the key to your next dream house. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.